Hello everybody, Ken here with Orlando Plumbing. But today I'm working on my one of my service vans, and we had no brake lights on it. And so I had one mechanic come out and he said, "Oh, but you've put LEDs on the van, LED headlights on the van, so you've you've broken your lights." Well, these lights I put on this van probably 3 years ago, and I've had brakes up until just the other day. Somebody stopped me in traffic and said, "Hey buddy, you got no lights, you got no brake lights." Of course, being brake lights, you don't know, do you, because they're at the back of the van. So anyway, I had a mechanic come by and he was like, "Oh no, the LEDs, you can't have LEDs and on an older van like this." And so anyway, we spent 45 minutes looking over things, checking the bulbs, checking bits and pieces. I'm like, it's not the bulbs, because the turn signals are the brake lights as well on this particular model. And so if we just come around the back, we can see that. So the brake lights are on now. They've just fixed the problem. Anyway, took me a minute, but what I found was the problem. Fuse number 7, which is my stop lamp fuse, was actually good. But, and if I show you with a tester, so if I touch that, test light fires up on that side, which it would anyway. Even if the fuse wasn't blown, it would fire up on that inside, because that's the power coming through the fuse. And then as long as the fuse hasn't blown, you'll get power on the other side. So if I can touch that terminal, there it is. So when the guy came along, he was testing this fuse, and that's what he did, and that's what I did before as well. So I'm like, okay, the fuse is good, let's move on to the next bit, right, which is under the seat. So because I've had such a major headache with this today, I actually took the seat out so I could work on this and trace some wires. And I got other wires in here as well from the van. Used to be a I can't remember, it belonged to another contracting company, and they had other electronic gadgets in here as well. Anyway, I tested these fuses 3 and 4, which are for the left turn and right turn. Might be the wrong way around, I don't know, but one's left turn, one's right turn, rear turn signals. And these were fine. I was checking the fuses, they were fine. So I was like, I'm not getting power back here. So I did have a break on the wire once before on the AC, and I had to rewire part of that before. Anyway, this guy came along and he's like, "Oh no, I don't know what it is. It's not the brake switch, and it's not this, and it's not that, blah blah blah." I'm like, well, it's got to be, a breakdown in the continuity of the wire. Has to be. So I started looking today then along. I'm going to tape all this back together, put it back in properly. And of course I got my parking assistant here. You check that out. So anyway, the wires go up, and there's a big mess of wires. Of course, all this needs to be cleaned up now, retaped and put back together. Now I fixed it. And I couldn't find any break in the wire, so it was kind of leading me back to the fuses. There's nothing online anywhere. Nobody's guiding anybody, nobody's advising anything. And what I found, I thought, let me just take the fuse out and have a proper look at the fuse. And I should have done this right at the beginning, but I just put a tester on the top, as you do. Like say, you just touch these terminals at the top, and then you got power there, and you got power there, like, right? So I'm like, oh, that's good. However, these are cheap, crappy fuses, and I don't know if you can see that. Look at the length on that fuse. So basically, when I was testing the fuse from the top, touching that, of course there's power coming out of this terminal, goes through the fuse, so power comes in from, you know, the energy comes into the fuse, it goes through the fuse, and then there's the break point in the fuse there, so if you overload, it'll break there. But in this case it wasn't overloaded, and we had continuity through the fuse, and it was coming back down this spade on the fuse, but this spade wasn't making connection, so it was coming out of that side there, going through the fuse, and then wasn't sending power back down that side. So the break in the wiring, in effect, was right there at the fuse. So I was looking at the fuse. I hadn't taken the fuses apart for any reason before, so I was like, okay, looks like a good fuse. And then I actually got another fuse, which is a standard Chevy fuse, and look how much more penetration you get from this spade than this piece of crap. So I changed this. Now this is a different rating fuse. This is a 20 amp. I need a 10 amp, and I don't have a spare 10 amp that size. And the only other one I've got is, I got a 30, I got another 20, 30 and a 5. But I don't want to put the 5 in case the fuse blows. But I'll put the 20 in for now, you know, and get better penetration on the connection from the fuse. Let me get it in there. There we go. So now when I press the brakes, I got brake lights. So not only are we amazing plumbers, but my engineering background, oh, of course I'm not pressing the brake now, that was very bright of me, but my engineering background from the education that I had in the UK helped me solve this brake issue that I had, brake light issue, that 2 mechanics here in Florida couldn't figure out. Really frustrated with that, actually. I paid one $75 and the other one just said, oh, give me $50 for having a look, because he did the same thing. Looked at the light bulbs, looked at the fuses, you know, missed it as well. I don't really blame him, I suppose, but you know, the mechanics, I guess they deal with fuses coming in and out more often than I do, so maybe they should have picked up on it. But anyway, nonetheless, I paid 2 people to have a look at the van, and neither one of them could fix it. So I had a bit of time today, pulled the seat out, and like I say, it's taken me a minute to figure out what's going on. So if you do have any, you know, issues with your electrics in your vehicle, like, this isn't actually pinpointing any specific fix, other than, you know, a little reminder that you have to check your continuity from one point to another. And I don't know why these vans do this, but they go from this fuse box to another fuse box and then on to the actual lights. So, and of course they go through the multifunction switch, and they go through you know, the wiring harness, because of its nature of what it's doing between the 4-ways, the turn signals, the brake lights, the running lights, the backup lights and so on. You know, it is a little bit complex, but at the end of the day, it's just energy running down a cable through a fuse and then onto the source, you know, in this case, which is the lights. So just make sure that you have, I just noticed another one there now. Let me see what that's for. In fact, I got a couple in there. I got a 15 amp. Did I say I spell 15? No, I haven't. So there's a 20. What have I got there? There's a 15 amp on number 18. So number 18, TBC2. I have no idea what that TBC2 means, but Let me just show you down here. It's one of the, look how easy that came out. It's another one of those piss poor fuses. So, you know, I could have another issue there now where, you know, something's not going to run. My TBC2, number 18, TBC2 should be 15 amp. This is a 15 amp, but it's absolute fucking rubbish, man. Look at it. Terrible. I'll pull out one of these. Let me show you what. Look at the difference. I don't know where these came from, but they're absolute garbage. So I'll risk putting this 20 amp in for now. I'm going to get a couple of fuses in the next hour. So I'm going to put that in there. Number 18. Please remember that. Come on, here you go. There we are. So yeah, you can feel these ones, these new ones, you know, the ones I just put in now. You can feel them really sinking into the female part of the wiring down there. But these bloody things are rubbish. You know, they barely touch the terminal, you know. So won't be using any more of those. I'm just looking, I can see another one at number 1, which is my radio battery. There's another one there, look. Look how easy that came out again. There's no penetration with them. So somebody's changed a few fuses here. Anyway, I can live without the radio for a minute, because I got my Pandora and stuff on my phone. So yeah, I'm gonna go through all these fuses and just replace these short waste of space bloody fuses with something that looks a bit more substantial. What do I do with it? Do I drop it? Oh no, I put that one in there, don't I? Yeah, switch that one out. Okay. So yeah, so anyway, check your fuses. I know it's a bit of a long video on just fuses, but it just goes to show, you know, that you're paying these people to do stuff and they haven't got a clue. They're supposed to be qualified mechanics. I'll never use them for anything again. If they couldn't figure this out, I really don't trust them to figure anything else out, you know, because this like I say, I'm not a mechanic, although, you know, I've got an auto engineering degree from school, but my job is a heating engineer, plumber. So I know a lot about continuity in electrics and electronics. And if I'd had time before, I wouldn't have even bothered of calling out a couple of mechanics to go over this. But here we are. So anyway, check your fuses. Check that, like I say, let me just go over what was happening again one more time. So we had power coming in. Imagine the power's coming in from over here somewhere. It came into this part of the fuse. It goes through the fuse. It comes out of the fuse, and then it supplies power into your source, into your load. So in my case, my load was a light bulb on the brake light. These two, like I say, are too short, and they, you know, one was allowing power to come in, but for some reason it just wasn't making connection. So imagine this is a scenario you got. That's the kind of deal that was going on. So we had power one side, with power coming in, traveling through, coming out, but then the gap was here, and then it couldn't continue onto the load. So that's the issue we had. Changed the basic fuse, and like I say, there's nothing wrong with the fuse. The fuse was working, it's just too short. It's not the right type of fuse to be in this van. It needs to be a longer spade, and that was the issue. So whenever we were testing the fuse looked good. We put it back in, and of course we still had no power. And then we were looking at all other sorts of issues. But anyway, 15 minutes worth of advice there for you. If that's helped you any, great. I know it could be a multitude of issues on these vans and cars and whatnot. It's not going to cover every problem, but I've had a few days of having no brake lights on this van just because of that bloody fuse. So anyway, Kenny with Orlando Plumbing and Drains here in Orlando, Florida. Hopefully helping everybody out with a little bit of drama. Like I say, sometimes it's the simplest things that give you the biggest headaches. So anyway, hopefully it helps, and if I find any other kind of information that might be useful to people, I'll post that in the future. But in the meantime, thank you for stopping by and checking out my long ass video. Thank you.